Love x Revenge is a channel where broken hearts collide with fate, and love always demands its price. The millionaire stepped into the restaurant expecting nothing more than a quiet business lunch. The place was modest, tucked between a laundromat and a closed flower shop, the kind of spot he would have ignored in his former life. But a meeting had been cancelled, hunger had won, and now he stood frozen just inside the door, the sounds of clinking dishes and murmured conversations fading into nothing. There she was, on her knees near the far window, wiping the floor with slow, careful movements, was the last woman he ever expected to see again. Her hair was tied back loosely, strands escaping and clinging to her tired face. Her uniform was too big, worn thin from countless washes. And beneath the fabric, unmistakable even at a glance, was the gentle curve of a pregnant belly. His pregnant ex-wife. For a moment, his mind refused to accept reality. The woman he once shared penthouse views with, who wore silk dresses and laughed at charity galas, was now scrubbing a restaurant floor. His chest tightened, a sharp, unwelcome pain cutting through the carefully built armor around his heart. She hadn't seen him yet. The hostess smiled politely and asked if he needed a table. He nodded without speaking and was led to a corner seat, his eyes never leaving the woman who haunted his past. Every movement she made carried exhaustion, but also something else, quiet strength, the kind born from surviving too much alone. Memories flooded back uninvited. He remembered the day he told her to leave. The boardroom, the lawyers, the cold words he chose because they were easier than admitting fear. He had believed the rumors, believed the lies whispered by people who wanted her gone. He remembered her standing in their marble-floored living room, hands shaking, asking him to trust her just once. He hadn't. When she told him she was pregnant, he had laughed bitterly and accused her of trying to trap him. The look on her face then, shock turning into something like heartbreak, had followed him for years, though he buried it beneath success, money, and endless work. Now, years later, the truth stood in front of him with a mop and a growing child. She stood slowly, pressing a hand against her lower back. For just a second, pain crossed her face. Instinctively, he half rose from his chair before stopping himself. Who did he think he was? He had given up the right to care. She turned toward the tables, lifting her eyes, and then she saw him. The color drained from her face. Time seemed to pause between them. The restaurant noise returned in fragments, a laugh from the kitchen, the hiss of a coffee machine, a fork dropped somewhere behind him. Her eyes widened, then hardened, a wall snapping into place. She straightened her shoulders and looked away, pretending he didn't exist. That hurt more than anger ever could. When a young waiter approached his table, he ordered mechanically, barely tasting the water placed before him. His gaze kept drifting back to her. He noticed the careful way she moved, the way she avoided lifting heavy buckets, the faint limp she tried to hide. No wedding ring, no partner hovering protectively nearby. She was alone. When she passed his table to wipe the neighboring one, he finally spoke. Her name slipped out quietly, almost breaking. She froze but didn't turn. "I'm working," she said flatly. "If you need something, talk to the waiter." "I didn't know," he said, "about any of this." She laughed softly, without humor, and faced him at last. Up close, he saw the lines of fatigue around her eyes, the strength etched into her expression. "You never wanted to know." "That's not true." She raised an eyebrow. "You didn't even want to know if the baby was yours." The words hit him like a punch. He swallowed hard. "Is it?" Her hand rested protectively on her belly. "Yes, he is." The world tilted. A son. His son. 1,000 questions burned on his tongue, but one look at her told him this wasn't the place. Not here, not now. She turned to leave, but he stood. "Please," he said, "just let me talk to you. 5 minutes." She hesitated, glancing around, then sighed. "After my shift. I finish in an hour." "Don't follow me." He sat back down, heart pounding, and waited. That hour felt longer than any board meeting, any high-stakes negotiation he had ever endured. When she finally emerged from the back, wearing a simple coat over her uniform, he stood immediately. They walked in silence to a small park nearby. She sat on a bench, lowering herself carefully. He remained standing, unsure, undeserving. I don't want your pity, she said before he could speak. I'm managing. I see that, he replied softly. But you shouldn't have to. She looked up at him, eyes sharp. And you think money fixes everything? No, he said, but I think responsibility matters. The word hung between them. He told her about the investigation he had never known about, the employee who admitted fabricating evidence, the truth that came out too late. He didn't excuse himself. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He simply admitted he had failed her. She listened silently, tears threatening but not falling. I cried for you, she said quietly. I cried until there was nothing left. Then I learned to survive without you. I don't want to replace what you built, he said. I want to support it. For him, and for you, if you'll allow it. She studied his face, searching for arrogance, for lies. She found only fear and regret. You can start, she said slowly, by not trying to control anything. Be present. Be consistent. That's it. He nodded. I can do that. Months later, the restaurant was behind her for good. Not because he forced her out, but because she chose a better path, with his support, not his shadow. He attended doctor appointments, learned how to assemble a crib, listened more than he spoke. When their son was born, he stood in the hospital room, tears streaming freely as he held the tiny life he almost lost forever. Love didn't return all at once. Trust didn't magically heal. But revenge, he learned, wasn't about destruction. Sometimes, the deepest revenge was becoming the man you should have been all along, and proving it every single day.